All right, we're back for another episode of the Mortgage Broker Podcast and continuing on with the Behind the Broker series. Today we had the pleasure of sitting down with Herjit Driver, one of the top agents at a Better Way Mortgage Group. I think you're really going to enjoy this one. We dove into a real cool perspective just on how to deal with client relationships, but more importantly, just the dialed processes and the commitment to those processes and how it has generated some pretty serious success. Herjit's actually one of the Hall of Fame members at a Better Way Mortgage Group as well. So I think you're really going to enjoy this one, and we'll pass it off to the team now. Welcome to the Mortgage Broker Podcast, tailor-made for Canadian mortgage industry professionals. Proudly presented by a Better Way Mortgage Group, this podcast is your trusted source for insider insights, market updates, and strategies to elevate your career in the ever-evolving world of mortgage brokering. Whether you're a seasoned broker with a Better Way Mortgage Group or an industry enthusiast looking to stay ahead, our episodes are designed to empower you with the knowledge and tools you need to excel in the Canadian mortgage space. All right, so we're here today with Herjit Driver, one of the top brokers at a Better Way Mortgage Group, actually recently inducted into the Hall of Fame. So definitely an honor to have you here. Appreciate you coming in and making time. I know how busy you are, and we're in the middle of a work day here, so really appreciate that. Excited to get into this episode because you have a lot to add, especially from just a perspective of how organized you are. I want to get into your process today, more so how you communicate with your clients. You definitely set the bar in your transparency. So I want to touch on that today as well. Jason is with us as well. And why don't we just start off, like, what led you into the career of mortgage brokering?
I fell into it. I think most of us do. So I started out, I was casual or contract based at a real estate office. That contract was ending. A realtor had a mortgage broker friend. He said he was going to interview you. I said, sure, why not? The interview was more like, here's the merit system and you start tomorrow. From there, he left to Mexico for a week and left me with a book, and the rest kind of was sink or swim. I think I swam, so here we are.
How did you handle that pressure when, you're 2-3 days on the job and somebody just picks up and leaves and says, Herjit, this is on you? Like, were you panicking, or were you nervous? Were you super confident in your ability to get it done? Like how did you kind of transition through that?
I wouldn't say confident in my ability, but I think for me, and I think everybody's life skills and history and journey is different. For me, I've always kind of been that person. I think a word that would describe me is tenacious. It's like, you give me something to do, I'm gonna do it. Like, I'm gonna find my way through it. So there was no choice, right? It was either walk away and quit, and that's really not my style, or jump in with both feet and give it a try, right? What did I have to lose? It wasn't my book. So I gave it a try and used my resources, my BDMs that I had, websites, broker kits, anything that was available.
What time frame was that? I think you mentioned 2007 before the show.
Yeah, February 2007. So it'll be 18 years.
Wow.
Next month.
I share a similar path where, like, I didn't come from a bank and didn't have any experience or anything and jumped right in. And I found, talking to a lot of agents within the industry in general, that's not really a common trend. Like, most people come from the bank and have some sort of experience, but the ones that jump in, like you and myself and others that I know, we tend to jump through to success a little bit quicker in some cases when you have that tenacious and mindset where you have to learn it, you have to figure it out. Like, you have nothing to fall on. Again, the failure rate's probably high in folks like that. But what was it that kept you? Like, what was it that ultimately led you to swim and not sink and just figure that out?
I always joke I'm a financial nerd through and through, and housing. So it's something that I've always kind of enjoyed. Oddly enough, most people don't, but I think that was a big thing. And I'm a learner. Like, I love learning new things. So it was brand new to me. Like, I did not know the difference between a refinance and an ETO, for example, right? So I think it was the ability to say, okay, I get to help people and I get to learn something new. In all honesty, I did not have an understanding of the capacity of earning potential, full transparency. And it's never been something that was a big driver for me, or is now, but the sink or swim was an opportunity. Grab it by the horns and go with it.
I think that's pretty awesome. Like, I mean, most people, when they're brand new and they come in, one of the hardest things to do is actually get a client So they
To
have to
learn.
work and to
Yeah.
learn on it. So, jumping in and having to learn that right away. And I think also the quickest way of learning is not having somebody to default back to and ask them, how do I do this? You got to figure that out yourself. And when you're figuring it all out yourself and you're kind of diving into it right away, you're getting your MBA in 5 weeks,
No, for
right?
sure.
So
Yeah. Yeah. And the positive of it, or the one thing that probably wouldn't have held me back, it was it's different when you're starting out on your own and you're trying to build this clientele and you're learning, right? Whereas it's somebody's client and your title is not mortgage broker, your title is administrative assistant or assistant. It's a different approach for you and for the client, right? Definitely. But there was a lot of learning that happened. Like I got to learn. I didn't know this till recently because I like to live in my own little silo. But I learned A lending, alternative lending, and private lending all in one go, like all at the same time.
And that was a very different time. And like, if you think of 2007 to where we are now, you've seen a lot of change in this industry and have had to continue to learn and adapt. What has that been like, and what do you think has been your biggest success in just navigating through those changes?
I like change. I think change helps us grow and be better as individuals and business leaders, right? So for me, it's always just staying on top of it. You read the emails, you check, you stay in contact with your resources, right? And those lender partnerships are huge resources, or your insurer BDMs are good resources. And also, going to them and asking questions, but also do your own research. Everything's available to you if you're whatever you're looking for is there. You just have to search for it, right?
this is very common, discussion points in a lot of the episodes that we do is there is no shortage of information out there, but it's up to us to learn and find out and help, implement what we're learning into the business. So, if we're staying on top of things, like guys, I know you always do, that's the best way to adopt your industry change is just using the resource out there to, familiarize yourself with what's going on, changes, how do you get ahead of things. And I think that's what the most successful brokers are doing.
It's also refreshing, just like a lot of the older guard in the industry hate the change and are the ones that seem to stick their feet in more than most, and the fact that you like it, it's probably a big piece of what continues to fuel your success, because you're willing to adapt and change and get ahead of it, right?
For sure. I get bored fast. That's probably, I'm not sure if it's a positive or negative. My husband, it might be a negative, so he's to keep me entertained. But I get bored fast. So the change in the industry, it just, either you can bah humbug about it and complain about it, or you can say it is what it is, and now what? Now next, right? And how do we embrace it?
Yeah.
And it's a talking point with a client,
Yeah,
right?
totally. So before we move on, just from your background and what led you into the career, what keeps you in this career?
It's kind of what we touched on, the changes. No day's the same, no file is the same,
Yeah.
right? Um, I enjoy the connections with my clients, with my BDMs, with basically the people. Like I'm a people person, so I genuinely enjoy the client connection. Like I can think of 10 clients off the top of my head that, they bought their first house and then they bought their second house and then he got married and then they've got children. That's pretty cool to watch. The family growth, the financial growth, and touch base. We're like old friends at this point, right? So that's a big part of it. And like I said, I genuinely am a nerd when it comes to just numbers and strategic planning. I'm not a math nerd, but you give me the ability to strategically plan and see how to play chess with numbers and finance, and I enjoy it, right? And it aligns with my core values and who I am as well.
Yeah, I mean that's great. I mean, being 18 years into the industry, I can imagine, you've probably had clients that you facilitated many transactions for, and maybe taking them from a bad spot and kind of help them, correct things along the way, and maybe even helping some of their kids get into places down the road. So, I mean, I would find that with myself too. That's always been one of the great things is you've got your clients for life, you've got the relationships, no day's the same, and I think that's one of the best parts about this industry.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, why don't we move into just some of the personal side of things? And this can be a very stressful job. It can also be quite lonely at times. How do you maintain a healthy work-life balance?
Great question. um, I would say first off, like balance is whatever you define it to be,
Good
right?
point.
So balance for somebody who is single or is just married or has a relationship is different than me, who's I had my kids, built the business, did everything kind of all at the same time. So it's not perfect, right? But my coach, or we call it leading your life. So it's intentional. It's being very intentional with planning. So once a week, I plan my personal life, my month. So it's making sure I'm taking time out with my kids and my husband and doing the things that maintain a healthy lifestyle. And then once a week, I'm planning the business. So what are things and projects that I want to do? And then I time block every day. And so it's really leading that life. And is it perfect? No, it's not. Like, does that mean when I go on vacation that there's no work? No, like there is no vacation.
Yeah.
Europe's great to go to if you want to work because your time's opposite. So
Yeah.
you get to enjoy the day, but you're also working till the morning. So, there is no balance, and balance is what you make it, would be what I would say.
I mean, I would totally agree. I think that people, when you talk about work-life balance, you always think that it should be 50% work, 50% family. I think that's a moving number that can fluctuate, more heavy on the work side at some times and more heavy on the personal side at other times. So I just kind of want to touch on something that you said. So you mentioned that every week you do a weekly plan for your personal goals and your business goals. And is that something that you prepare, like you have a block that every Sunday you sit down and kind of map out what you want to accomplish? To me, that's kind of a really cool way to look at it, that you're actually sitting there and preparing your full week before it happens.
Yeah, so it's been Tuesday mornings, but it's being changed to Sundays. And what it is so like for my personal life, I'll write down in 1 month what are things that I want to do. So for example, like I've got 3 girls, one's in Ontario, so the 2 that are living here, it's, I'll take them out just on one-on-one time. So I write down that I'm going to do that. I pick a day in the calendar and I block off that time. Disclosure, I still have my phone and they hate it, but they've accepted that's just a part of life. And they know there's weekly dates with my husband. So I know like Friday at 4 is my last meeting because I've gotten in trouble because I push it to like 6 and 7, right? So I write it down and it gets booked. And then for the business, I write down for that week. The business is every week because it's a little bit more nuanced. And then according to that week, I time block in my calendar. So my assistant and I can see where's my time. It's color coordinated as well.
I love that you're planning it week by week. And with that, I know you do you're goal oriented and organized. So I would assume you're doing some pretty heavy business planning at the beginning or end of the year. Does that play into some of this planning as
For
well?
sure. Yeah. So at the end of the year, I do a review of where the business is at. I go off of how many people I've helped, not just the volume, because like this last year, for example, if you just go off of just your revenue, you're putting people in shorter term
terms,
fixed, right? So it's how many people have I helped, and where did money go? I do the same thing with my personal life, so it's tracking spending. So was it marketing, referral partners? How much time did I spend with different referral partners? And then where did those seeds develop fruit, right?
Yeah.
And then I plan out where is money going to go. What's my burn rate? How much have I invested? So it's a full audit of the business. And then from there, I do what was positive? What were my successes for 2024? And then what do I want in 2025? And then from there, it's how am I going to accomplish those?
So then when you're doing your weekly planning, do you revisit those
Yes.
at every session or?
Yeah, once a week, I kind of take a look at, okay, so if I know the business growth for 2025 is 10 to 15%, I have it broken down to how many leads I need every week. So there's actually a paper that I have that, I write down. It's a booklet. So every time a lead comes in, I have it on the system, but I have it written down on that paper. So I know that this many leads have came in this week. So I'm on track for the goals. Because you can write goals down all you want, but if you're not keeping track and checking in, it means nothing.
Totally agree. Like it's such a key component. Like we talked about this in the training that we did towards the end of the year with the whole team around business planning. It's like, hey, it's great to have a business plan, but like if you're not actually tracking or keeping yourself accountable, what's really is the point of it, right?
Yeah.
So this started to make a lot more sense to me what I know about you, because you do travel a lot. You seem to get some pretty cool destinations on your
Not as much as I'd want to, but yeah, I enjoy I enjoy traveling.
So would that be part of the personal side then, where it's like, hey, I'm going to make sure we do XYZ trips this year and then put it out there and then work towards that? Or it's like, how does that come into the mix? Because you since I've met you, you've done some pretty cool trips.
Yeah, some
Yeah.
pretty, yeah, I suppose. The same idea that I did with my business planning
Yeah.
financially, the same goes. I probably drive my husband a little bit crazy. We do the same thing. I do the same thing when it comes to our personal life, right? So, how much did I pay myself a set salary? It's not a question mark how much I'm going to pay us, and then we know how much he'll bring in, and then from there it's like, what are our expenses and how do we make this work, and how do we make it work without draining the corporation? So, and it changes. Like right now, we're paying for, Queen's tuition and rent for Queen's and for her to come back and forth. So that changes things for travel, but travel's definitely a priority. No fancy cars here, but vacations for sure.
I mean, yeah, it's incredible to me. I mean, it's no wonder why and how you've kind of reached the goals that you've done. And as Dean mentioned, Hall of Fame with us is I find that a lot of people, as we kind of go through the business planning to start the year, a lot say, hey, I have a goal of doing 20, 30 million, whatever that volume amount is or number of families, but they have no actual plan in place in order to show them how they're going to achieve that. So for you to kind of have everything dialed in like that on a weekly basis and revisiting to make sure that you're hitting your structures and your goals. I mean, that to me is something, if I were listening to this podcast, like I'd really take that away and just, figure out, am I doing this enough? Am I tracking my goals enough? Am I actually outlining not only my weeks, but my years? So I think that's incredible, the amount of detail and effort that you're putting into those plans.
My takeaway is just like the personal side. Like I'm so diligent on business planning and tracking and revisiting it, but I definitely don't take that approach personally. So it's a good reminder and definitely something I've noted here. Hey everyone, Dean here. Quick timeout from the episode to share with you the ABW Tuesday Mortgage Memo, your weekly market highlights sent directly to your inbox every Tuesday. This is certainly one you're not going to want to miss, so make sure to sign up now. You can do so with a link in the show notes, or you can head to joinabw.ca and sign up there. This is a high-level summary of market developments, regulatory updates, and housing trends every Tuesday. So hope you enjoy it, and back to the show. Yeah. I want to touch on coaching because you mentioned you've started working with a coach.
Yeah.
Is that let's maybe touch on that a little bit. What is that like, and how is that going for you?
So I always knew I wanted a coach. And for me, it was always like, I know where I can get to. I need to be prepared for it. And so like, even going back to life coaching, life in general and balance, when my kids were small, like I always said, like, there's no sacrificing my time with my kids. There just isn't. And I was fully aware to get to certain volumes and help so many clients, there would be time sacrifices with my children. And that was a non-negotiable for me. Right. So I've got teenagers now. And so when I was looking for a coach, it was somebody that aligned with my values as well. And somebody that was going to be kind of like I am, very blunt and straight to the point. So the coaching, I know a lot of people that coach with him go every other week, but I opted for every week. So
Wow.
Every Tuesday, mostly in person.
Oh,
And, I'll say, here's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And it is the balance of like, okay, how is that going to work? So we do discuss personal, but we also discuss business, and it goes hand in hand. And it's not so much, I think a lot of people think coaching is accountability. I don't think I have any issues with accountability personally for me. It's more of like, I have somebody that I can say, here are some ideas. What do you think? And where to go? And it's somebody that's been very successful themselves. So I'm not going to somebody who, for me, was like, you can't tell me how to do something if you haven't done it yourself. Right.
Very good point. So, okay, that answers the question I was going to ask. So this isn't somebody that's specific to the mortgage industry. This is more just life business coaching.
Yeah, somebody, it's mainly business focused,
Okay.
right? But when we started, I said, like, it's not going to be one of those things that my marriage and my kids go by the wayside.
Yeah.
Like I was very clear on that. So it's business coaching, but life comes in. I think they're connected, right?
Oh, totally. Like I think the main point is you had an intent. You knew exactly what you wanted from that. Like I'm the same way. I didn't need accountability, but there were certain points in my life where I needed specific advice on the mortgage business.
Yeah.
But then that grew to like personal, just general business management, and it almost became more of a counseling type
Almost, yeah,
relationship.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, let's just jump into day-to-day operations because you have a pretty dialed system. You're very strict with yourself and how you go about your process. Your staff seem to be like a replica of you, so you've got the perfect person
She's a
working with
little
you.
bit more C-type than I am, I would say. Yeah.
So what does that look like? What does a typical day look like for you?
Wake up's around 5:30,
Wow. Okay.
right? And that's quiet. Like that's my
Yeah.
quiet time. So a few days a week, that means training. Again, with a trainer, somebody I'm gonna optimize my time. And then usually, it's boring, but while I'm getting ready, it's either a book or a podcast that I'm listening to, and then straight into work somewhat while I drop off my kids, and then me and my assistant meet every day, 9 a.m. virtual meeting. And something that I think we do different is part of my morning routine is to set an intention for the day. This sounds a bit woo woo, but we'll share it anyways. I set an intention for the day. What am I grateful for? And this is the part that people have a hard time getting around to. What about me creates what I'm grateful for? And then what am I looking forward to in my day? So it kind of, no matter what shit's going to come your way, I think it kind of sets up an intention for the day of how you're going to carry yourself through that day, right?
That's huge. Another good reminder, I used to write down what I'm grateful for every day. I don't do that anymore, but it actually like positively helped my mind like every day going into that with that in your back of your mind. I really like that.
Is that an exercise so I know you do that with your assistant, but do you get her to say what she's grateful for?
She has to go through the whole thing.
Really?
Cool.
And I got to imagine that's probably helped your guys' dynamic or even kind of become closer together as you're growing into the roles. Like now you kind of know how each other tick and how each other operate from an internal personal standpoint. So I think that's kind of neat that you guys do that together.
For sure. And I think, overquoted, but we'll quote it anyways, is like the whole idea of Brene Brown and vulnerability it is vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's a way to build connection as well, right?
Yeah, totally. How do you stay organized, especially during busy times?
So we have our systems in place, and I'm always looking at improving them. We use Philogic's Door for our front end, our client onboarding while the client's going through the process. It is color coordinated. Client cards are organized like by importance and meaning, like when is your appointment, for going over options. And then we use Blue CRM for our back-end tracking as well, and our daily check-ins and updates. So there's notes in each file. So when I have a meeting with a client and what the summary is, I write everything by hand when I'm in the meeting because I'm still old school, but that just means I have to go back and type it in.
When it comes to Blue, do you leverage much of the automation side of it? Like when it comes to automated, let's say text messages or emails or communication from that side of things?
We do some of the emails and we're currently refining and fine tuning it. So my approach is very much the boutique feel. Like one of my core values is like compassion and care.
Yeah.
So I like to take care of my clients. So a part of it is making sure they're not getting cookie cutter emails, but there are some automated emails that get their one year anniversary. But within that, we have emails that we send personally, like their birthday. We get a reminder that it's their birthday, and it's either an email or text message that's personalized.
That's actually one of the reasons why I brought that up is I found like, let's say 2 years ago, everyone was about automation and having all this stuff go out automatically. And it's almost like set it and forget it type situations where I feel like that type of approach it does become more robotic and you are losing like a personal touch or connection with the client. And it's almost like we're kind of steering away from that. And it's like leveraging, there's two ways to look at this. Like you could leverage the automation to just remind you that it's their birthday and then go write them something personalized, right? Or as you look to scale, there's different ways to go about that than just having that automatic message go out. So that was kind of more the reason why I wanted to ask that question.
I also think like everybody's different. I look at it as in what has the most impact for me. So somebody sending me a pre-done birthday card, I don't know, my vet.
Yeah.
Like I throw it in the garbage. Like
I had a recent event where the birthday and a lot of the messages that I got great to get them, but they were all the exact same. And it was just an automated message coming through. I notice that when I look at, how some people are using ChatGPT, where you can tell
You can
now
pick it
that
up, yeah.
somebody did not write that message to you.
Yeah.
So I think if you're doing the things where you have the ability to personalize something, maybe make a comment about their kids or their life, whatever it is, I think that goes a very, very long way, because it's good. Proof is out now. I mean, I can tell if somebody's sending me something that they didn't craft or create.
For sure. Like for me, it even goes as far as, and I probably sound a bit crazy, even Facebook, like it tells you it's somebody's birthday and then like your wall's full. Like if I see it, I won't comment. I will actually go via text message and send an actual personalized message. I
Yep.
don't need the whole world to see that I sent
Completely
the
agree.
person a birthday wish, right?
Yeah. What challenges do you face and how do you overcome them?
Honestly, the first answer, the biggest challenge is being a mom, honest to God, to teenagers, while trying to run the business. Like I can have my day set to a T, and if I can't get those two to school on time, is probably the hardest challenge. But the way to face it, honestly, is setting expectations. I think that that's for clients, for me, for my kids. Like even this morning, it's like I'm leaving. I have to be somewhere. Go to school. Don't go to school. We can figure it out later, right? So I think sometimes you just have to let go.
Yeah, good point. I have three young kids, so I'm already dealing with getting
Oh, you haven't
getting
even started yet.
yeah, getting them out the door to school. It is certainly a challenge. Okay, what is actually you mentioned? I want to touch on this. You mentioned you listen to podcasts or listen. Do you listen or read a book when in the morning?
Listen,
Okay,
yeah.
so audiobooks. That I'm the same way. Is there one podcast or book that sticks out to you?
Not really. Like, I'm a big fan of not being in an echo chamber. I think you need to listen to a variety of things. And I also think you need to read a variety of things, different perspectives. More than anything, I think the big thing, this is where my bluntness is going to come in. The big thing is people say, I listen to this, or I read 50 books a year, 100 books. Awesome, great. But what have you done with it?
Yeah.
Right. So read the book, take a takeaway, apply it. Right. So I break it up. I'll listen to a book. I'll listen to it a second time. I'll marinate. I'll pick one thing.
Yeah.
One thing, and then a couple podcasts. Right. And the podcast might be nothing to do with mortgages. Right. But it's just a different perspective to pick up on.
I love hearing that. I think a lot of the times people convince themselves that they're doing the work or they're learning or whatever the case may be because they're reading more, they're listening to podcasts. But if we're not implementing the things that we're bringing in, you're really not doing yourself any favors. So the fact that we can kind of sit back and, I would talk about this when you go to a conference as an example, is you don't look to retain the entire conference. You look to retain one or two actionable items that you can go and implement, whether it's into your business life or your personal life. And, if what's the point of reading it if you're not going to retain it and implement it?
Yeah,
So
no.
I love that comment. I love the bluntness of that comment.
With that, why don't we touch on your client relationships? Like, what's your approach to building and maintaining such strong client relationships?
So a part of the process is the first meeting is a virtual meeting, and it's what the discovery call. And I just tell them this is a phone. This call is to for you to let me know about you, and me to let you know about who I am and how we work together. And that it's a screening for them and for me.
Yeah.
So, we have that conversation. And one thing I tell them is I'm going to ask you lots of questions. For me, it's about getting to know you so we can work together going forward. And it is things like touching base and asking about their kids. Not because that's what I've been told to do, but I actually care to hear about their kids and their vacation and what new restaurants they tried out, things that I enjoy as well. So it's building those relationships. It's relationship focused, and really understanding what makes them tick and asking questions. Right. I think, I tell them if all you want is a mortgage, you could do that online. Like that's easy. Right.
Yeah.
But asking questions like what's important to you about your mortgage. And that usually triggers a response. Well, what do you mean? Isn't the rate? Right. So it's really building those relationships and intentionally.
Talk about building rapport with your clients, right? To your point, is if you're just looking at a client as though they're a transaction, do it online, right? But to actually have the rapport and make your clients feel like you care and you care about not only this mortgage, but setting them up for whatever their goals are down the road, and making them feel that you're definitely in their corner, and you're not just somebody that's doing their mortgage, or somebody that really wants to see them do well and succeed. Yeah, I mean, again, I'll keep saying this, but there are reasons why you've been around for as long as you've been around for, and you're doing as well as you're doing. So,
Natalia always jokes. She's like, "How do you remember people and their story?"
Yes.
I'm like, "I don't know. I just do. Like, it's probably because I do care, right? Like, I
I think that's it
genuinely
for
that's
sure.
that's
I
got to be what it is.
genuinely
Yep.
care about like
Yep.
what they're building. And I've been there. Like, you talk about young kids, like when I have that conversation, I'm not just telling you phantomly what paper tells me what it's like to have young kids. I can tell you when they're going to get expensive. I can tell you what you should plan for and why you should set up. It's life experience, learned and lived experience. I also know what it's like to set up retirees, thanks to my parents, right? So it's real life experience. It's not fluff. It's very much just who I am.
Well, and that connection goes a long way because you have those experiences that you can share with, because you're caring and asking those questions, you can then download that type of experience onto them, right? Which is pretty cool. Um, I think I know the answer to this, but I want to ask it anyways. How do you ensure a smooth experience for your clients?
Communication, clear, consistent, concise communication. That's not just email. That'd be my one.
Yeah,
If you're just sending emails, please look at your own inbox and tell me if you open all of them, because I sure as hell don't, right? Like, I don't.
totally.
Eventually they do, but I think, different types of communication, understanding what the best form of communication is, and going from there.
You're pretty transparent up front with your clients when you start working with them about your communication methods. Is that part of it then? Like, it's like, hey, do you want to be communicated via email, text, phone, Zoom, in person?
It definitely is. So I say we communicate via email,
Yeah.
right? If you need anything, if you have any questions, this is my direct line. You can text, you can call, however you need. And Natalia sets up, I said, if you're okay with it, we're going to set up a WhatsApp group message with me and Natalia and whoever's on the mortgage for quick questions. Please don't send any documents through any other form but the portal or
Yeah.
email. And, they say yay or nay or whatever works for them. And we go with it.
I like that. Do you have a memorable client success story that you're willing to share, or does anything come to mind?
There's lots of them, but the one that comes to mind is I had a client. This is pre-pandemic, so they came into the office. I would say older couple, but well-established couple. They came to me for a refinance. We were sitting, having the conversation. I said, okay, I'm going to pull credit. I can't share it unless both of you guys are okay. And if you're not, that's okay. No worries. One of them was like, yeah, for sure. Not a problem. The other one, not so much. And the body language read. And I said, you know what? I'm going to put you guys in a separate office, have a conversation. If you're not ready, no worries. I totally understand. They had the conversation. Long story short, one of them had an insurmountable amount of debt that the other did not know about. And I was very clear. I said, I can't say anything, but it will eventually come out. So
Yeah.
I encourage. Basically, I ended up being a marriage counselor.
Oh gosh, I've been there.
Long story short, we ended up cleaning everything up. They're still clients to this day. And they're too kind, I would say. You saved us in our marriage. I was like, no, like I don't want that. Like, we just did your mortgage. I'm glad it all worked out, but everything's cleaned up and things are good.
Yeah,
That's huge.
I mean, you being able to take the lead on that situation and know what to do, kind of separate them, talk, and this all breaks down to what I think is almost becoming a lost art, which is what you said, is straight communication. This is where we're at. This is how we're going to fix it, and working through a plan together to make that go through. So I mean, that just completely backs up to you kind of talking about, hey, like, my big piece is the communication side of it. And, as the broker and as the person leading that, I mean, you certainly do that. And that I'm sure many, well, maybe not many, hopefully not many, have been in that situation. But I mean, that's that's definitely a good way to do it.
I would say, like, my big thing, and I tell the clients this is not about me. Like,
Yeah.
the mortgage isn't about me. Like, none of this is about me. They can pick from whoever they want. And I think that's an important way to view things, right? Like, we talk about losing a deal. You didn't lose anything. It wasn't yours to start. Like, that's just my approach, right?
Yeah, that's a really good approach, and I think it's just also just back to caring. Like if you actually care, I feel like the right decisions will be made.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, is there one key like business impact? Like what's like, maybe I'll reword that. What's the biggest factor that has been the most influential in your business?
Uh, Most recently, I would say, actually, I would say it's a mixture of self development and self growth, and coaching as well. So I think, um, working on yourself, even whether you think you need it or not, I think it's an important piece, right? So taking takeaways from books,
Yeah,
or finding a coach or whatever works for you, right? I think, before we start blaming mortgage rules have changed, it's a slow market, whatever your narrative is, I think you need to change that narrative.
yeah, I couldn't agree more. Um, Before we wrap up, we'll kind of get into some of the final summary questions here, but I want to ask you one piece. And I mean, maybe this is a two-part question, but what is most valuable to you as a mortgage broker within the industry? It could be, within the brokerage, your lender partners. Like, is there one thing that, you find the most valuable to you in your business?
I think the idea, well, of sharing information with colleagues, the like, I had a file or one information on a certain lender that I knew a broker in our office works closely with. So it was just a quick text message and information was freely shared. I think that that's a huge thing. And you guys, I'll be very frank, like, when you guys first took over, I was like, okay, how is this going to go? But you guys have done a great job, not only just keeping things somewhat status quo, but also growing them and the resources available. So the lender meetings, Tuesdays, I'm not able to attend, but I'm able to hop on and click on their social media tiles. Things like that are super helpful.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, we talk about sharing and resource and all of that, and I mean, being able to have access to other people to bounce things off of. This is not the loneliest world, like many people that come into the channel think, because I'm just alone on my own island. I say that quite often, but it really isn't like that. I think if you have the ability to collaborate with peers and share and kind of be willing, it's always going to be helpful along the way.
For sure.
Can you share a tip or a strategy that's been a game changer for your business?
Embrace systems as soon as you can. Yeah.
Great one. All right, looking ahead, what are your goals for this year?
A 2025 would be if we're talking about business goals, a 10 to 15% increase as far as numbers of families or clients helped. Yeah.
And that I would assume that's probably pretty achievable, just given how your approach to your business is, especially with the coaching, self-development, the processes that you have in place. But not to go down this road too much, but I would assume the market should rebound to at least a 10% increase,
For
you would
sure.
hope,
Yeah.
right?
I think so as well. I think for me, um, I want and my desire is to create a sustainable business. So it's not market dependent necessarily. And I keep talking about numbers of families I've helped, right? So for me, like, that number should steadily continue to grow, because I feel like sometimes, you take 2021 or 2020, your numbers are
Yeah,
huge, and then
yeah,
you plummet,
Yeah.
right? If you can build a slow, steady, reliable business, if it does better, amazing, right?
yeah.
So it's not putting together easy targets; it's putting together targets that you can continually build on.
Totally agree. This has been great. You've been fantastic. Like there's been a lot of good stuff talked about here. I love your approach because it is so blunt and direct, and
It's
you don't
not loved
sugar.
by everybody.
I appreciate it because you don't sugarcoat anything, and you just get the direct goods, which I appreciate. With that, and just in closing, is if you think of yourself, maybe going back to when you first started on your own, or in general, is there any advice you'd give to yourself at that time?
The only thing that comes to my mind is, like, I had no idea what I was actually capable of. Like, I didn't know what I knew. Like, now looking back, knowing how I know how to structure an ADL syndicated B, as alternative, private. I think I had a lot more to leverage than I really understood I did. Yeah.
That's great.
Like, how do you
Yeah.
build off that comment? I
Yeah.
mean, understanding your own capabilities and realizing like what you've actually accomplished and what you're capable of doing. I mean, if that kind of stuff doesn't drive you, I don't know what else will.
Totally agree. Yeah, I don't really have much more than that. This was a great session. I mean, to touch on just, your history and coming into the industry, the fact that you had no financial background, the personal development side, how you handle client relationships. It's been a great show, and I appreciate you coming on, and thank you very much. This is
Thank
great.
you for having me.
Yeah, I got to close out saying, I knew you were impressive, but I didn't know how impressive you really were. So, learning a bit about your processes and flows and your kind of your outlook on the business and personal side and all of that. I mean, it's been great. It's been great for me to learn about that. And yeah, I mean, that was awesome for me.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. On to the next one. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. If you found value in this show, please subscribe to our channel on your preferred platform. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Your support is incredibly appreciated. We also welcome your reviews and feedback, which are crucial in helping us deliver outstanding educational content. Feel free to share your thoughts. A 5-star review would be fantastic if you think we earned it. Lastly, a vital announcement about Backpack Buddies, our chosen charity for 2025. This remarkable organization addresses a hidden hunger issue many are unaware of in British Columbia. While school districts provide meals during school hours, numerous children face food scarcity at home, particularly during the weekends. Backpack Buddies steps in to support these vulnerable children, ensuring they have easy-to-prepare, familiar food for weekends. This is achieved through collaborations with schools and an extensive distribution network. Your contribution can make a significant difference. With just $20, you can give a child in need a food bag from Backpack Buddies filled with enough meals and snacks to sustain them over the weekend and more. Once again, thank you for listening, and see you on the next one.